Welcome to Step Up and Play Big with Chris Ruisi. Chris and his guest experts are here to show you where the possibilities lie and what they can do to help you. Now, here is your host, Chris Ruisi.
And hello, everybody. This is Chris Ruisi, and it's another episode of Step Up and Play Big with me, yours truly, Chris Ruisi. And we have a great show today. My special guest is Josh Opperman, a successful entrepreneur, owner, founder of the online jewelry auction site called I Do and Now I Don't. And our topic today is how to find those opportunities to become a successful entrepreneur and how one man took a bump in the road of life and turned it into a very successful business and a new way of life. Everything we'll be discussing today is based upon his actual success story. So let's pay close attention and take notes because Josh is, in fact, the real deal. His story has been featured on the Huffington Post, CNN, as well as the Today Show. So Josh has been around. Now, I'm sure everybody wants to know, at least I want to know, and it's my show, so what the heck. Could you describe the process you followed to arrive at that final decision point that you were going to make the leap and that you had a viable business in the making, so to speak?
I did a lot of research, and I saw that a lot of people were in the same position as I was, and I decided that I was going to take the leap forward, knowing that there wasn't anything like it out there yet.
Your life should be very long, so you have time to try things out and proceed cautiously until you're ready to take the bigger risks.
You know, people ask me, Chris, why did you decide to do a radio show? And to be honest, there was a little bit of ego involved with that. You know, you meet people and they say, gee, what do you do? And I say, well, I'm a radio show host. And that leads to the next question, really, what's your show all about? So I get to talk about how to step up and play big in my book and the things that drive me. It also gives me the opportunity, because it's an internet-based show, to use a different medium, if you will, to help get my message out and bring increased awareness about me and what I do.
What changes now did you have to make personally in your business habits in order to prepare yourself to become an entrepreneur?
When I was working before, you get a steady paycheck. This time I had to make sure that, goals were set and not relying on anybody but yourself.
I use the expression, all of a sudden you woke up one morning and you became they. If you're working for another employer, some would always say to you when they had to give you bad news, well, they said you have to do this. And lo and behold, Josh, you became they.
One of the biggest benefits in the show for my listeners is their ability to get information they otherwise might not from people who have done some of the things that they're trying to do. Entrepreneurs, people who have been in business, are in business, have experienced challenges and problems. So one of the things that drives me in what I do at Step Up and Play Big with me, Chris Ruisi, is to be able to be seen as someone who puts out valuable content, usable information, practical information. And the radio show and the guests that I have give me a way to do that.
You are listening to Step Up and Play Big with Chris Ruisi. To reach the program today, please call in to 1-866-472-5790.
So Josh, in the last segment you mentioned that becoming an entrepreneur as being the only person working for yourself now was different than working for someone else, and it caused you to start to think differently. Give us a little more information on that if you can.
I think one of the biggest changes is I think entrepreneurs, they take more risks.
Yep.
So it was definitely more risk-taking. You can't be scared to do something, and you just got to go for it if you have the gut feeling to do it.
Risk-taking, a critical part of being an entrepreneur, and it's a critical part of success. I use the analogy when I give a talk that you got to be like a turtle, because a turtle moves forward by sticking his neck out.
And we select our guests, they have to demonstrate that they've stepped up and played big. That's what I wrote my book about. That's how I coach. People who are able to see the value of a little extra effort to separate them from the crowd so that they're not seen as average. They're seen as people who can make a difference.
What have been some of the more memorable experiences thus far, and what did you learn from them as you've been growing I Do, Now I Don't?
Even though we're in the technology age, people do want to hear a voice at the end of the phone, just make sure it's a legit business, and especially when you're selling higher value items like us, it's actually very important to speak with the customers, we found.
Describe for me the leadership style that you have found to be the most effective.
In the beginning, I was always worried, what if they do the wrong thing? Are they going to mess up the company? So in the beginning, I was on top of everybody. I was looking at exactly what they were doing. I would, question them all the time.
There's a dilutive effect that the more you try to control it all, the worse it could possibly get. And you're paying those folks to be there. But no, you're a successful entrepreneur. We know that. You've taken the risk, and you're evolving, and that's the value of why you've stepped up and played big. We talked about the site being very comprehensive and how it evolved into its current format. But more broadly, what advice would you give to people to look for business opportunities in their regular lives?
Usually the most successful ideas come from trying to solve a personal problem not out there yet.
So what you're saying is that when you experience a life event, a personal problem, or somebody you know is going through that, as opposed to just dealing with the situation at hand, sort of like a chess game, ask yourself a couple of questions where else can I use this? How can I exploit? And I mean that in a positive way. How can I exploit this in terms of its applicability to something else? Because that's what innovation really is. Josh, where do you see the future of your business going?
I think the future is we're going to be adding more categories and more upscale.
You raise an important issue there where I think I mentioned it before, where to be a successful entrepreneur, a business owner, a business leader, you've got to get in the habit of questioning the status quo. And what you just described to me is doing that because businesses grow, then they plateau, they digest that growth, and they try to position themselves for the next growth cycle. And that's exactly what I guess you're doing with the changes to your site and adding more categories. You've digested your early growth, you've learned as time went on, and now you're trying to position yourself, make the changes so that you can grow again to the next level. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
For those of you who want more information, it's idonowidon't.com. It's a great site. You owe it to yourself to go there. Josh has been a great guest. And again, for those of you who couldn't write as quick as Josh and I were talking, the show will be up on my show page, recorded version of it. So, Josh, thanks so much for being a guest, and time to go out and step up and play big and make something happen. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
To learn how you can be exceptional with less effort than you think, you can send an email to Chris at chrisruisi.com, or you can visit the website to find out where Chris will be appearing next, coaching, and his books. Visit chrisruisi.com to step up and play big.